knocking on the door. So I told him, I said, look, do not come to my house after 11 o'clock. Don't knock on my door. Don't ring my bell. Don't nothing. So when he came back the second time, it was later. So I'm like, yo, I already told you, don't come here after 11 o'clock. So he had texted me the other day like, hey, how much money do you want? And I was just like, I didn't know that's how it works. He was like, yeah, just how much you trying to get? I'm like, I don't know. So I'm like, babe, how much money you want to get? She was like, I don't know. She's like, why you want to know? I'm like, I don't know. He want to know. She's like, why he want to know? I'm like, I don't know why he want to know. She's like, well, tell him 200,000. I'm like, 200,000?
The Bamboo Project Podcast starts in 3, 2.
Welcome to the Bamboo Project Podcast, where you will see how we turn our life into a living. So, I want to give a shout out to the Bamboo Project family. I appreciate every single one of you for tuning in every week. This may be your first episode, but for everybody else, this is episode 46. And if this is your first episode, you have a lot of catching up to do. For people who do not have YouTube premium accounts and still want to listen to the podcast while they're getting things done around the house or running errands outside, you can find the audio link for this podcast in the description below. We are streaming on all major streaming platforms such as Apple Music, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Breaker, Anchor, Pocket Cast, Overcast, Castbox, Radio Public, and Breaker. Okay? And for everyone listening to the podcast who are not tuned in on YouTube, okay, we have a YouTube channel where we currently now finally have over 300 videos. And if you do not know the name of that YouTube channel, if you take a guess, what do you think that YouTube channel is? The Bamboo Project. We have cooking tutorials. We have lifestyle vlogs, travel vlogs. We have real estate, fitness, basketball, makeup, hair growth, and everything us. If you want to see our day-to-day behind the scenes of how we get all of these things done, you can tune into our social media. Mine is DonivanGray, DonivanGray, and my amazing, beautiful girlfriend is AnetaBurn, AnetaBurn. Now, if you don't know, we have multiple different projects. Okay, we're doing a lot on this side in the Bamboo Project. And for each one of those projects, we have an Instagram. Okay, there is a food project, the music project, the clothing project, the fitness project, the sports project, and the Bamboo Project Podcast, which you are listening to right now. If you want a preview of what this episode will be about, the timestamps for the video and audio will be in the description below. Today's date is February 2nd, and it is currently 1:38 p.m. And for everybody who is new, we have 4 different segments on the podcast, okay? The first segment is the life update. That's when I recap my last week, and I kind of just go over it with you guys and kind of let you know what I experienced over the last week. Then we have the second segment, which is episode playback. That's when I have already listened to last week's episode, and I go, you know what? I think I either misspoke on this, somebody brought something to my attention, or I'm like, nah, I think I fucked up. I want to kind of clear this up. So episode playback. The third segment is Donovan's questions. That's when because I'm a very profound individual, and I go, you know what? I think I want to share my profoundness with the world. So I present a question to you guys without any type of context, just a question, and you guys can either comment the answer or just think about it yourself. And then the final segment for the podcast is the topics of the day. Now, today's topics are a rollover from last week's topics. The topics are the arbitrage business, which I'll get into later, fractional investing, which I did this week, which is a fucking other thing, the news and making money, and kind of how school and people going to school and become entrepreneurs work. Just not how it works, in my opinion on it. So we're going to start off with a life update, which is personally my favorite segment of the podcast. Last week, I invested in something called Dogecoin, right? Now, you guys may have heard about it, may not have heard about it. You probably have heard about the whole GameStop thing going on. So I felt like, you know what? I want to try and catch a come up on this stock trading that's going on. I'm going to invest some money into it, right? Now, for people who are new to the podcast, you may not know how I guess, make decisions about things I'm going to do going forward, right? One of those things is I like to say how I feel when I'm making a decision, and I mean my physical body, right? There are times when I know that I'm about to make a bad decision, right? And this is one of those decisions. I invested you know what? I'm going to give some more context as to what's going on, because people may not know what Dogecoin is or what's going on with AMC or what's going on with Robinhood and things like that. So over the last couple of weeks, Robinhood, which is a app that you can trade stocks on and make money, it's called fractional investing, where you can, pretty much buy a stock that actually costs $400. You can pay $1 for it, and you still get returns on the stock that equate to what your dollar percentage is of the total amount of that stock. So if the stock is actually worth $10 and you put $1 in, then you only get 10% of that stock. So if the stock goes up 10%, you still gain 10% on your money, but you don't get the 10% as if you had put the full $10 in. So fractional investing is mostly for people who don't have any money, but you can make a lot of money doing it. So something that happened recently is something called, how can I explain this for people who, I'm pretty sure people probably know, but people who don't, it's something called shorting, right? Shorting a bet or shorting your stock would be when you, here we go. I don't want it to get too complicated. I'm trying to prevent it from getting really complicated, but a bunch of people on Reddit found out that a lot of big companies are shorting stocks, right? Now, shorting stock means that, actually, I'm use Melissa as an example.
Yay! Oh, wait. I thought you were going to have me do it.
Do what?
Give the explanation. The definition.
I was going to have you help me to explain it, but how are you going to explain it?
All right, so boom.
You got to come over here, though. You got to put your titties away. Okay. Melissa is going to explain stock shorting.
Hello. As you can see, I'm very comfortable. So what shorting a stock is, or how I see it in my head, is something costs $10. The stock costs $10. The broker owns the stock. I buy the stock for what it's worth at right now. So that means I'm buying it for $10. And I have to give him one stock back because that's what I bought. I bought one stock, he gets one stock back. Now, I am banking on this stock to go down to $5, right? So if he gives it to me when it's worth $10 and I give it back to him when it's worth $5, I get to keep that $5 difference because he just wants the stock back. He doesn't want the actual $10 that I bought it for. So he's giving me a stock to borrow. Is it to borrow? Yeah. Or I buy it?
You would buy it, but what I was going to do was use you as an example to actually demonstrate what it would look like.
Okay.
All right. So, people who are watching, you'll be able to see if people are listening. You have to say exactly what's happening throughout the whole time. Okay. So, right now, I have one stock of the Bamboo Project in my hand. Okay. Now, Melissa is going to buy this stock from me. This stock right now costs $10. Okay. So, what are you going to do? You have to demonstrate what it's going to do.
I'm going to take the stock from you for $10.
Okay. So, you're gonna pay me $10.
Okay. I'm going to pay you $10 for the stock.
To my $10. Thank you. Here's my $10. She now has the stock. Okay.
Yes, and I am now holding the stock.
Okay. Now you are going to sell that stock immediately.
Okay. So I'm selling this right now to Jeff for $10.
Right. So now you have $10, right? Mm-hmm. And I actually, you know what's crazy? No, I did that wrong. Okay. Did it wrong. Here we go. Try this again. Okay, Melissa, you're going to borrow this stock from me.
Yes, I'm like, I don't think we buy it.
Facts. So here you go. You can borrow the stock. Right now, the Bamboo Project stock is $10. Okay? Melissa wants to borrow the stock. Here you go, Melissa, borrow the stock.
Cool, thank you.
Okay.
I'm now borrowing the one stock.
Okay. For how much money?
$10.
Okay. What are you going to do with that stock?
Shake my ass for the stock.
You could do that too. You might not make a lot of money doing that, but you could do that.
I am going to sell the stock.
Okay.
For $10.
Okay. So now I'm like, I think I want my stock back, Melissa. And my stock right now is $15. Can I have my stock back, please?
Absolutely not.
But I want my stock back. Can I?
No.
Why can't I have it back?
Because then I have to pay you $5 extra.
Why you gotta pay me $5 extra?
Because I bought it. I took it from you when it was at 10.
Uh-huh.
You want the stock back at the price that you wanted at.
Yes, which is how much?
15.
So what does that mean for you?
I have to pay you $5 in addition to giving you the stock back.
So how much money do you lose?
I lose $5.
So why did you borrow that?
I lose $15.
So why'd you borrow that stock from me? Yeah, you lose $5.
Oh, I lose $5. Because I thought that it was gonna go down in value.
What do you mean?
I thought you were gonna have to pay me $5. I thought it was gonna go down to $5, and you would have to pay me $5. That's what I thought.
Okay, well that's not really how shorting works either.
How does that? What? That's not how that works.
I wouldn't pay you anything.
Who? Exactly.
You said.
You're right. Okay, fine. You don't pay me.
We're gonna do this again.
I thought that I would keep the difference.
We're gonna do it again. All right, let's try this again. We're gonna call this out. All right.
This is not. Do we understand what shorting?
Listen, we're gonna do. We can try this again. Here is one bamboo project stock. Take 3. Okay. Hey Melissa, do you want my one bamboo project stock?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm gonna let you borrow it. I want it back. It's $10. Right now it costs $10. I'm letting you borrow it though. Okay?
Okay.
Here you go, Melissa.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for this one stock.
Uh-huh.
At $10.
Okay.
I now own.
Okay, what are you gonna do with the stock?
I'm going to sell it.
Okay, how much money did you get?
I get $10.
From who?
From whoever I sold it to.
What's his name?
His name is Jeff.
Jeff. Okay, so Jeff gave you $10 for selling him the stock.
Yes.
Okay, so now I'm like,
That's not how it works.
Okay, fine. We start again. Huh? Right. You're right. You start again. All right. Because I was using that as a trigger to give me the stock back. But you don't have to give me the stock back.
Yeah.
That's what I'm just using as a trigger. Like, hey, it's time to give me my stock back.
Okay.
But, okay. Take 4. All right. This is one bamboo project stock that I'm holding in my hand. And it costs $10. Okay? Melissa, do you want to borrow my stock?
Why, yes, Donovan. I shall borrow this stock.
Oh, great. Thank you. That stock is $10 right now, Melissa. Okay? $10.
Okay. Wow. I have one stock for $10.
Okay.
Oh, I think I'm going to sell this immediately to Jeff.
Yeah.
For
Uh-huh.
$10.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
So now Jeff has a stock for $10.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So now my stock has went down to $5. It's not worth $10 anymore, right? So now Melissa does what?
I'm going to give you the stock. I'm going to buy back the stock
Mm-hmm.
for $5.
Mm-hmm.
And I get to keep the $5.
Mm-hmm.
And give you your one stock back.
So now I have a $5 stock, and Melissa has, how much money do you have?
I have $5.
Uh-huh. How much money did you make?
I made $5.
Okay. How much money did you spend?
I spent $5.
Okay. Not really. What is your yeah, you didn't technically spend any money because you made your money back.
I borrowed it, yeah.
So you didn't spend any of your own money
I
and you made your
$0,
money.
and I made my $5.
Right, by borrowing this stock, okay? I hope that was clean. Now, okay? Melissa shorted this bet. All right? I hope that was good enough for you guys to understand. Now, the reason why this can be bad, okay? This is Stocks 101 with the Bamboo Project, okay, guys? Here we go. Now, here, Melissa.
Hi.
I have a stock right here.
Oh, wow. I love stocks.
Oh, you do? Here. Do you want to borrow mine?
Why, thank you.
Oh, my.
I have a $10 stock.
Oh, that's great. Okay. So look, you can pay me back whenever you want to, but I actually no. I need you to give me a stock back. Like whenever you're ready, just give me one of my stocks back, and we'll be even. Okay.
So you
All right.
give me a stock, I give you a stock.
Yes. Perfect.
Right now, my stock is worth $10.
Okay. So I don't know what you're gonna do with that, but do whatever you want to do, you do with that.
Jeff. Here, I sold it to Jeff for $10.
Okay. Oh my God. Wall Street Bets, which is what's happening right now. They just put so much money into the stock market, and the Bamboo Project stock is now worth $20. 20 whole dollars now. Yesterday, when I let Melissa borrow it, it was $10. But today it's $20. So how much money do you owe me, Melissa?
$10.
You owe me $10? So if I wanted my stock back today, how much money would you have to pay to give me my stock back? You have to buy. She has to buy that stock back for $20. Listen, I don't want the money back. I want the stock back. And for her to now get that stock to give it to me, she has to buy it herself for $20. She was shorting it, thinking it was gonna go down, but she didn't know the Bamboo Project is an amazing company. So we always go up. We always going up, right? So she said, "Oh, I'm gonna bet against them. I'm gonna short the stock." That's what shorting is. And she bet against us, and she lost. That is what's happening in the market right now. So I'm going to give a little bit more context, but that's shorting 101. That was my version of, what was that show? What was that show? Oh, Melissa, there was a show where they would cut the scene and they would explain. It was The Big Short. I think it was The Big Short. Was it The Big Short? It was one of the real estate crashing.
It might
Yeah. So in the middle of the show, they would just stop and explain it. Now that was our rendition of trying to explain that to you guys. Okay. So, anything else? Okay. So that's it. Melissa's.
Are you trying to kick me out?
Yes. Get this stepping. So here we are. Now that you guys, now that I explained to our now that we did something with you guys in the classroom. The reason why the stocks were going up is because a Reddit forum called Wall Street Bets was putting a lot of money into this buying GameStop. Why? Because they found out that a lot of large hedge funds were shorting GameStop by an obscene amount of money. So much money that if they were to lose, which they did, they would be a bankrupt hedge fund. They wouldn't have enough money to pay for the short. Now, one of the questions that I have, I'm having, let's look that up for me, please. Can you find out the timetable for shorting stocks and when you have to pay back those shorts?
I think that's like a case by case.
Okay, well, can you give me some type of something I can give to the family on here?
There's no time limit on how long a short sale can or cannot be open for. Thus, a short sale is by default held indefinitely.
So here's what I remember. This is what I remember from watching The Big Short. You have to pay monthly on the amount of money that you owe.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, so it can be held indefinitely, I guess, as long as you have the money to keep paying for whatever.
Right, and that's what I remember. If you can pay every month for your losses that you're accruing every single month, then you can hold the stock for 1,000,000 years if you want to. So I'm assuming what was happening was with these hedge fund managers, or with the hedge funds, they didn't have enough money every single month to cover what was going to happen down the line, because everybody realized that they had put so much money into shorting it, enough money into it that if their company was to lose this short bet or what, the short situation, they would go under. Now that's not really the best thing to do, because obviously if you are going to short a company, you want to short it like, damn, if we lose this short position or whatever you want to call it, then we won't go bankrupt. We just might lose a lot of money. But it seems as though they shorted it so much that they would possibly end up going bankrupt. So, or they at least didn't expect everybody and their mother to go and invest in the stock. Everybody buys the stock. There's less stock out there. The price goes higher. They have to now pay this monthly amount to the whoever they use to short the company, right? So it was GameStop, AMC, Robinhood. Like I said, a lot of y'all probably are familiar with what happened with that situation. So I'm thinking, you know what? Yeah, I know I got in kind of late. I'm like, you know what? But I see what's going on. I'm seeing numbers going up 300%, 400%, 500%. Like, this is crazy numbers. That means that your money in the stock is doubling, tripling, quadrupling, quintupling, dexacupling, everything. It's rising crazy amounts of money in a day. And that's not for the whole week. It's going up large amounts. So if you put $1,000 in on Monday, you could easily have had $4,000 or $5,000 by the end of the day. That's how crazy it was getting, right? So I'm like, you know what? What's the worst that could happen if I was to just put like $100 in? Like I'm gonna get something out, right? Now, this is where I went wrong first. I know that if I feel like I'm rushing, I'm making a bad decision. Rushing feels like anxiety. If you feel like you're jittery, you're shaking, you're amped up, it's a bad decision. Now, I think you can always tell when you feel like it's rushing if you equate it to gambling or playing a lottery, right? Because you always feel excited about what's going to come because you didn't actually put the work in to get that outcome. It's just something that somebody gave to you. So you're always excited about what could come because you don't know what can happen. As opposed to if I was sitting around studying GameStop for months or years, then when I make that decision, I don't feel as amped up about it. I'm like, oh, this is like, I know what's going to happen. I don't feel as excited about putting money into a stock that I've been studying for so long. But if I take my $100 and just throw it into a random stock, every second I'm like, oh, is it going to go up? Is it going to go down? Is it going to go up? Is it going to go down? Oh my God. And that's how I was feeling because I felt like, okay, if I put this money in here, I should be able to make something. Now, I started off with $100 in GameStop. Now, that's not a lot of money. It's just kind of like well, let's see what happens. I have this extra money left in my Robinhood account. After I took it out for Airbnb, I figured, let me just get in on and see if I get any money out, right? That was my gateway drug. So everything is going pretty fine. Money's going up a little bit. I think I made like $50 in like 20 minutes, something like that. I made a good amount of money. Well, yeah, I made some money, more than people would make percentage-wise by investing, right? So I'm like, this is interesting. So then I start hearing about something else. It's cryptocurrency, okay? One of them you guys are familiar with is Bitcoin. Everybody knows about Bitcoin and how it works and things like that. The other one, another one, not the other, there's a lot of them, is Dogecoin, which is more or less a meme currency. What that means is it's really powered by how many people think it's funny online and buy into it. That's literally, as far as I know, that's it. And Elon Musk likes it because I guess it's a funny thing to just like. So he's a very notable person. He tweets about it. Everybody goes, oh, I want to buy that. It's funny to buy it. Now, this actual cryptocurrency was probably worth 0.00004% or 4 cents, right? It wasn't even worth 1 cent. So it had, like I said, it had no value, but other than people saying, hey, I want to buy this. So over the last couple of weeks, people have been pushing this Dogecoin thing, right? And how the stock market works is if people buy it, then it's going to be worth more money, no matter if it's a valuable thing or not. Same thing with Tesla. I think I've heard that they're valued at way more than they're actually making, because the stock market is literally just based off of how many people are going to buy into that stock. It's supposed to be supported by the actual company, but the way things are going now, that's not really what's going on. So remember, Dogecoin is worth 0.000004. Okay, let's say it's 100th of a cent or 400th of a cent or something like that. It shoots up to like 0.0001. Now, think about all the decimals, percentage-wise. People became millionaires off of Dogecoin in this couple of weeks as a joke, because everybody decided, you know what, we're going to go out and buy Dogecoin. Next thing you know, it went up to actually 7 cents. So imagine that. It went from 0.00001 to 7 cents. That is a huge increase. If it was on the other side, let's say you had a stock that was worth $1 and it went up to $700 or $7,000, that's an insane percentage of income to make off of investing in stock. That's like, the return on that is insanity. Nobody really, I don't think anybody in their life has made that much money in 2 months from investing. I just don't think that happens because that number is so crazy. So I'm like, yeah, you know what? I'm like, what is the worst that could happen? If I put some money into here, I'll be fine. So I talked to one of my friends. He kind of looks into the crypto thing, and we're talking about, he's like, yo, you got to get in. I'm like, bet, I'm going to try and get in there, right? So my sister calls me while I'm trying to get in. So I'm kind of like trying to get in while it's still going up, or so I thought. And then also I'm trying to like be on the phone with her. So already this is a frantic situation. I'm on the phone trying to rush to buy the stock to get everything figured out. I'm trying to get my money in, but Robinhood is not letting me buy the stock. Y'all are familiar with this too. I can't buy the stock. Then I have to transfer the money from my account to that account. They're not letting me do that. I tried to do something where you can borrow money through Robinhood to do it. They weren't letting me do that. As you can see, I'm being very thirsty. Great word to use. Very thirsty when it comes to this, because I'm rushing. I'm excited. Oh, I could just make money real quick. It's gambling. And you can always tell by how you feel when you make this decision. It's something that me and Melissa talk about all the time, because I'm like, hey, babe, you're doing like you see, if you can't see, I'm moving my arms around a lot. Like, you just kind of frantic. Think about how you feel if you're anxious about something. That's how I was feeling. That's how I was acting. So the reason I'm bringing this up is because I want other people who feel this to know what it feels like when they're about to make a irrational decision, right? So I tried to hedge my bet by going, you know what? I only put $1,000 into Robinhood, because you guys already know we are planning to move to Atlanta. So I took all of that money out. Well, we took all of that money out, and we were like, you know what? We're going to use that money to go to Atlanta. I'm like, $1,000 won't hurt us if I put it in there. The return on the $1,000 could be a couple $1,000, or we lose the whole $1,000. I'm like, Worst case scenario, that's not that bad. We had like $14,000 or $12,000, something like that at the time. So it's like, not that big of a deal. So again, me frantically rushing. I'm like, oh shit, I can't buy it. I'm trying to buy it. It's gonna go up. I gotta buy something right now. I'm gonna lose out. See his energy? Bad energy. You should never have this kind of energy when making decisions. It's not a good idea to have this kind of energy. You should always be calm, cool, collected. Like, okay, weighing all the options. I can do this. I can do that. I can do this. Okay, now let's do this. And you can tell that you're doing that because when you finally make that decision, you kind of feel like you feel bored. It's not fun to make those kind of decisions. And if you're making a decision when you're not having fun, it's probably going to be a better decision for you. It's going to be a more calculated, thought out decision where, it would not say that. It won't be more fun. It'll have a better outcome down the line. It'll be more fun in the moment because it's so exciting. You don't know what's happening. You're literally gambling with the decision. But if you want to have the better decision, you want to go, you know what, let me plan this out and think about it more long term. So I tried putting 1,000 in. They wouldn't let me. I'm like, fuck, why is it not working? So I tried to put it in again. They're like, no, you can't do it. I tried to put it in again. Like, no, you can't do it. I'm like, what the fuck? Why is shit not going in? Like, you know what? I'm gonna just borrow it. So I'm signing up for a Robinhood account for borrowing. It's like a gold account. I'm paying for that. So now I'm paying $5 just to borrow this money from them. And I'm just like, all right, I'm gonna take this money, put it in there, get out real quick, right? So somehow they ended up accepting the money that I tried to take out from my account before, as well as lending me the $1,000 from their account. So now I'm in for like 2,000 and some change, right? And I'm just like, fuck it. We already here. Let's get the money. We gonna go up, right? So the money goes through, it clears, and funny enough, right? The next day, they were not allowing people to do direct deposits from their account to Robinhood to purchase stuff. They stopped doing that because, as you saw with me, I could just borrow $1,000 out of nowhere for no reason just to spend. And with the whole GameStop situation, they were trying to stop that. So I'm in for 2,000. I'm on it's probably like 11 o'clock at night. So I'm excited. I'm like, oh yeah, we going up. I put the money in. I bought a whole bunch of Dogecoin, like so much Dogecoin, just a whole bunch, all of it into Dogecoin. First 5 minutes, I made like $200-$300. I'm like, yeah, I knew I made a good decision. I'm like, this is great. I'm like, yeah, I'm killing them, right? So I'm like, yeah, you about to have like $5-6 grand tomorrow. I'm gonna wake up. We gonna be not rich, but we gonna be like good, right? So I'm just like, yeah, all right, okay. I go to sleep. I wake up in the morning. My $2,000 is now $700 overnight, gone, like that, into thin air. And I'm looking at the phone, and I'm like, damn, that's crazy. I'm like, shit, I only wanted to borrow 1,000. I ended up borrowing more than 1,000. I didn't make money, and I lost 70% of the money that I had planned to use, that I was gonna invest, gone. So now I'm sitting there with a clown face on, like, damn, what the fuck happened? How did I end up in this situation? And I'm like, you know what? Worst case scenario, I figure it might go back up at some point. I feel like it will. And honestly, this is what I'm banking on. A lot of people were not able to buy Dogecoin that day that I bought, which was like Friday, because Robinhood limited people to deposit money. You had to wait like 3 to 5 days. That time period is going to end within the next 2 or 3 days, right? So all the money that people try to transfer into their Dogecoin account or into their Robinhood won't actually clear until the next couple of days. So in that time period, when I think that they will start buying Dogecoin again, and it'll go back up. So that's what I'm banking on. Now, the plan with that is once we get back up to once we get to 3K, right? Because we put 2K in. I'm like, we get to 3K, I'm going to take 2,000 out, leave 1,000 in, and just gamble with that. Because it's literally what it is. I'm just going to gamble with that, leave it in there, and see if it goes back up. If the 1,000 turns into 2,000, that's great. If the 1,000 goes into 0, that's fine too, because we got our $2,000 back. But right now, I'm going to check the stock market and see what it's sitting at, because last time I checked, it was down. It wasn't down good. It went up to like 1,200 though, but it didn't go back up 2,000. Right now it's at 900. So the lowest I seen it was like $600 or $700. So just to give you kind of an idea of what Dogecoin was doing. Let me see. I'm gonna give you an idea of where Dogecoin the numbers that it had over the last 3 months. So it was worth December 30th, it was worth 0.004%, right? So it went from 0.004% to, or 0.004 cents. It shot all the way up to 4 cents, okay? That is a 1,700% increase, okay? So I'm going to do the math real quick to give you an idea of what that looked like. If I put $100 in, right, times 17, what was it, 81%? That's a lot. Do the math on that for me. Let me see. Hold on. 100 times 17, 81%. Yeah. If you put $100 in, it would have turned into $1,700. Okay. Now, if you put $1,000 in, it would have turned into $1,000 would have turned into $17,000, pretty much in 2 months. So you would have made $8,000 a month if you had put $1,000 in. That's the kind of crazy things was happening. So you can imagine the people who were in there for 50,000, 100,000, things like that. They were making killings. So that's what I said I was going to try and do, and so on and so forth. Now, the story I want to get to about my neighbor. A lot of you guys are new to the podcast, right? The OG family, they already know about my crazy ass neighbor. Okay. I'm gonna give you guys some context to just our history as neighbors. It all started out on one lovely evening. The sun was setting, and me and my girlfriend had just moved into the apartment, right? And you guys know, moving to an apartment, you have to like get things made. You got to build stuff. You know, you got to put things together. You got to set up a lot of furniture and appliances and utensils and things like that. Televisions, a lot of that kind of stuff. So people who move in or move out of their parents' house, they might know that things you will need will be a drill. And that's where this whole story started. I went to my neighbor and was like, hey, neighbor, regular human being, or so I thought, can I borrow a drill? And he was like, sure, you can borrow one of my drills. I'm like, thank you. I'm like, look at me being an adult. I moved out. I'm borrowing drills from my neighbors. This is great. This was like a couple years ago, maybe like 2 years ago now. So after that, we kind of got a little bit more cordial. You know, he might come over, ask me for something. I'm like, yeah, I got you. I asked him for something. He had a little kitten. The kitten would sometimes get out of his apartment and run up and down the hall. You know, I love animals. So I would bring the kitten in. You know, I was sitting in the bed. I'm like, what is that sound outside? I hear a cat. I go and I get the cat, bring it in. I'm playing with the cat in the house. I'm like, hey, you know, I'm having fun. Cat threw up in my on my clothes though, but I like cats and I like animals. So, you know, I bring the cat back to him. He's like, oh, you know, thank you for bringing my cat back. It's a really nice relationship we're having. Everything is cool and regular. So I don't know when it started happening, but things started getting really weird between us and him. And it started off with him coming over here. Was that in the middle of the night? It was like at 3 o'clock in the morning. And he wanted the Wi-Fi. My neighbor comes over to my house and he asks for Wi-Fi at 3 o'clock in the morning. I'm asleep. Melissa's awake. She's like, okay, this is kind of strange, but she gives him the Wi-Fi, right? He's like, oh, can you, thank you so much. Here's my PS4. Can you, as like collateral for me having the Wi-Fi, right? So now I'm sleeping. So when I heard this story in the morning, I'm like, this shit don't sound right. I woke up, I saw a PS4 in the house. I'm like, what is happening here? Like, why is that here, right? And all of the story is in one of the podcasts. Melissa, can you go and check which one that is? Because I don't want to go through the whole story. Just give me some context. So that was the first time. Then the second thing that happened was, what was the second one? There's something else that happened after the PS4. Oh, I'm in my apartment, right? Again, nice apartment. I'm relaxing, looking at the view, enjoying myself. And I get a knock on the door. I'm like, you know, I'm a nice guy. I'm a very amicable guy. I would like to be helpful when I can be. Maybe one of my bad traits, but it is one of my traits. So he's like, hey, man, what's going on? I'm like, I'm chilling. How you? He's like, I'm good. He's like, can you help me? I'm like, sure. Of course I can help. What do you need, sir? I got you. What do you need? He's like, there's this guy in my apartment and he won't leave. I'm like, I feel like we are crossing a line here about how our relationship works and what kind of things, how I help you, right? But I'm like, it can't be that bad. Like, what could possibly, like, what is going on here? I'm like, it's whatever. Episode 22, 30, 33, and 35. These are the situations of us and the neighbor and what we were going through with him. We'll say it one more time. 20? No, 22. 30. 33 and 35. Okay. So I go to the guy's apartment and I'm like, you know what? What's the worst that could happen? I'm like, I think I prepared myself. I'm standing at the door. I'm like, okay, let me try to scope out what the situation is because I'm not trying to get shot in this person's house. So I'm just like standing by the door. I'm looking at it. I'm like, all right, I don't really see that much of a problem. I think he asked me to get his phone back from somebody. And I was just like, all right, let me just see what's happening. So I go in this apartment. This is my first mistake. I shouldn't have went in this guy's apartment, right? And I go in the apartment, which I've never been inside before, and I'm looking around. Huge red flag. There's no furniture in this house, right? There's no furniture. He's been living here for almost 2 years. All there is a table. Now you're probably like, what kind of table is it, Donovan? Well, I'm going to explain to you what kind of table it is. Have you ever been in summer school or summer camp and you guys go out to a picnic and you guys have those like plastic, they're usually white or black tables, and they have those legs you fold underneath them? Maybe you had them in school too. That's all he has in the house. It's just that and a chair. And I'm like, well, this is kind of peculiar. Why is there only a table in here? This is very odd. So I'm standing there in the doorway and I'm like, all right. So he goes to the back to the guy and tells him like, hey man, give me my phone back. So I'm thinking, mind you, I'm thinking this is a domestic situation. I'm thinking maybe he's gay. His boyfriend came over. He didn't want to give him his phone back. I don't know what's going on. I'm helping. I'm a neighbor. I'm the helpful neighbor, right? Friendly, helpful neighbor. That's me. So the guy comes out and he's just like, looks like a skinhead, short, has a tank top on, baggy pants, and probably has on black Air Force One. So these are all the signs of me about to get stabbed or shot or something bad about to happen. So I'm like, damn, this is kind of crazy. I'm like, all right, but he's short. So I'm like, I'm pretty sure this wouldn't be much of an issue if we had to like, if he tried to attack me. But when I saw him, I saw in his face that he was scared of me because he didn't know I was going to be in the apartment. He came out to the front of the apartment. He saw me. I was like, oh, shit. He's like, oh, this what you're doing? This what you're doing? I'm like, he's talking to the guy. I'm like, all right. So clearly I'm going to be fine. So he gives the guy the phone and he comes and walks past me and leaves. That's one of the second steps, right? So now we're going to bring it up to the current times, what happened most recently. There was another time. Which one was that? That was the second time. That was the third time. I mean, it started with the drill. The Wi-Fi twice. Okay, right. So the Wi-Fi again. This was the time where I started to get annoyed because my dad used to he was a foster parent for certain children that may have had emotional disorders, right? And they would be they can get angry or they just had a lot of emotional trauma and things like that. So I have an eye for situations like that because I used to live with a lot of these people, a lot of these kids, and some of them were kind of older and some were even younger, which I think is easier to spot it. So when you see at a very young age, you can kind of see how it developed into an older person. So I'm in the house again. Was I sleeping this time or were you sleeping? No, I think
you were sleeping, but I woke you up.
Okay, so yeah, she woke me up because the guy wanted the Wi-Fi again, right? And he was knocking on the door, mind you, again in the middle of the night. So I'm just like, all right, whatever. You want the Wi-Fi? Sure, I'll give you the Wi-Fi. So I'm like, what's going on, man? He said, I get the Wi-Fi. I'm like, all right, so I'm going to go look for it. So I think he knocked on the door multiple times, right? He was knocking on the door multiple times.
Answer right away.
Yeah, Melissa I think she was cooking or cleaning in the house and I was sleeping. I thought you were in the kitchen.
No.
I thought you told me you were walking around and that's how he heard you or something. Because I thought he had heard you. Either way.
I was watching TV.
Okay. Either way, he was knocking on the door multiple times, right? In the middle of the night. So he assumed that somebody was either in the house or awake. Melissa was kind of like, it's kind of late. I don't really want to go answer the door, but he kept knocking. So she went and you woke me up first and told me. I'm like, all right. So I went to him. I'm like, hey, what's going on? He said, oh, can I get the Wi-Fi or whatever? Now, this is the first sign that I saw. He had $20 like behind his back, right? He goes, hey, man, can I get the Wi-Fi? I'm like, sure. He's like, oh, here's $20. And I'm like, sure, thank you, right? But he was doing it as like if it was I don't want to call it a gesture. He was trying to hide the money as like, look how great I am. I gave you $20 for your Wi-Fi, right? As opposed to just being like, hey, can I use your Wi-Fi? That would have been more normal. That's a first red flag to me. I took the $20. I'm like, it's $20. I'll give you the Wi-Fi, whatever. You already know the PS4 weird thing. I explained this in another podcast. Don't take things from people when they think they're doing something. When they think that you are doing something for them, do not take stuff from them because they will then feel obligated to whatever you are supposed to do for them. That's what was going on. So this guy gave me the $20. So I go back and I'm looking for the Wi-Fi password and things like that. I'm looking for something to write it down on. So it's taking a little while. So I go and give him the password. Right? He's like, thank you, whatever. Give me. I think he gave me $20. I think he gave me $20 after I gave him the password, probably. Right? So I go back and I lay in my bed because I was sleeping. I think I was still working at this time. So I'm tired. I want to go back to work in the morning and make some more money. This crazy, deranged person comes back to my house as if he lives here and starts knocking on the door. I think he's even ringing the bell. He is knocking on the door like I'm in his house. So again, I'm worried like, yeah, this is an issue because like I said with the $20, he feels like he's obligated to the house. Now, my concern was, no, not even my concern. I knew what probably happened. I'm like, maybe the Wi-Fi didn't work. Maybe the password might have been wrong. I don't know. But he feels like I stole from him. He feels like he gave me $20 for a service for the Wi-Fi and he did not get that service. So now he's like, oh no, you stole from me. I need to come back and get what you stole from me. I'm not trying to be in this kind of interaction or dynamic with this person. So I go, okay, I'm just gonna lay in the bed. Cause I'm like, it's not that serious. I'm like, I can give him the Wi-Fi in the morning. I'm laying there. He keeps banging on the door. I'm like, and ringing the bell. I'm like, okay. I'm not even I'm gonna leave it alone. Knocks again. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna go to the door now. I'm like, yo, what's going on? I think I told him the first. Did I go back up 2 times or only once?
I think when he started banging, you didn't answer the door until you felt like it.
Yeah. So I'm like, okay. I'm like, you're doing a lot. So that's when I realized, I'm like, you know what? Where's $20 at? Because I'm like, obviously this is gonna cause a problem. This link between us is $20 is gonna be an issue. I went in the closet, got the $20 out, opened the door. He's like, hey, don't worry. I said, here, take the $20. Don't ring my doorbell again. Don't ever knock on my door again. Because that's what happened before. When he first came to the door, I said, yo, it's after 11 o'clock. Like, what are you doing knocking? Like, it's late, bro. Like, what are you doing? This is not a necessity for you to be at my house at this time knocking on the door. So I told him, I said, look, do not come to my house after 11 o'clock. Don't knock on my door. Don't ring my bell. Don't nothing. And you have my number. You could text me. Don't do any of those things. So when he came back the second time, it was later. So I'm like, yo, I already told you don't come here after 11 o'clock. I'm like, here's your $20. Don't knock on my door ever again for no reason at any time of the day. I don't want you to knock here at all. He's like, but I'm like, I don't care what you listen. Just that's it. That's enough of that, right? So that was the last. That was the last time before the most recent time. Now I'm gonna give you guys a little update of what happened most recently. This guy comes to the house again at 3 o'clock in the morning, right? Now, 2 o'clock in the morning. We came when you was here, right? We came with the pizza.
It wasn't that late.
What time was it? What was I doing?
Making dinner, so it was like 8, 9.
I thought it was the middle of the night. So, okay, it was like 9 o'clock. He came to the door. Melissa said she heard like fidgeting at the door or something like that. She opens the door. The guy is standing there with a pizza in his hand, right? And I guess somebody he was with had told him he's at the wrong apartment. He was trying to get into the wrong door, so on and so forth. But like I said, you already know I'm tired of this guy. I'm like, I don't understand. This is ridiculous. So Melissa tells me the story when the door closes. I'm like, all right, that's kind of strange. He's being weird again. So later in the middle of this is when he started banging in the middle of, when was he banging?
He was banging at 3.
Okay. I gotta get my story straight. I hate to have to keep stopping the story. So he came here around 8 o'clock with the pizza, right? And that's when he was fidgeting with the door, and Melissa had heard him, and she was like, all right, what's going on? It's just kind of weird. And his friend was like, yeah, you're in the wrong apartment. So then, in the middle of the night, he's knocking on the door at his apartment, right? Banging on the door. Like, first he's knocking, just like a lot, like loud knocking. And I'm just like, that's kind of annoying. Like, it's just annoying, but I'm like, I don't know. He's locked out of his apartment. I can understand trying to get into your apartment. Whatever. Then he starts like banging on the door, like with the side of his hand, just banging on the door. So I'm like, that's kind of weird. Like, that's mad. He's being really loud. Then he starts like really banging on the door with his hand. So I'm like, bro, what is going on in the hallway? So I'm like, this guy's crazy. So I'm still laying in the bed, and then it sounds like he starts kicking the door. I'm like, bro, he's kicking his door. Like, what is going on in the like? It sounds crazy. Imagine you in your you're in your bed at 3 o'clock in the morning, and you hear somebody kicking their door, screaming like into their apartment. Hey, I locked. Just screaming. And I'm like, nah, this can't be realistic. Like, this can't. I don't believe that this person is really doing this in the middle of the night, screaming and banging on the door, and nobody said nothing to him. I'm like, bro, all right. So I get up again, and I go to the door, and I look on the floor. There's a pizza, half-eaten pizza on the floor in front of my apartment. I'm like, the fuck is this? I'm like, yo, this is your pizza? He's like, nah. I'm like, so this not your pizza? He's like, nah, it's not mine. I'm like, you sure it's not your pizza? He's like, nah. So I look at Melissa, because she was like, she woke up like, what's happening? And I'm like, yo, is this his pizza? And Melissa was like, yeah. I'm like, yo, what's going on? Like, why are you banging on the door? What's going on? He's like, yeah, I can't get into my apartment. No, what did he say? I think I don't have my keys and I can't get to my apartment. My brother's locked. The door is locked. I'm like, all right, that seems normal. Or so I thought. I'm like, yeah, but you could just call a guy at the front desk and he knows you live here. And you just have him open the door for you. Like, that's like, do that. He already called him. I'm like, yeah, I don't believe this. I'm like, you probably lying. I'm like, all right. So I come back in the apartment. I call the front desk. I'm like, yo, what's going on the 23rd floor? Like, why is this dude banging? You heard about this? He's like, yeah, he came down here. He told me that he don't have his key. I'm like, all right, whatever. So I left it alone. It seemed to pretty much stop. I didn't really hear no more noise after that. So a couple hours later, I'm editing the video, right? And I hear like a lot of like bustling and hustling in the hallway. I'm just like, what is that? Like, it sounds like there's a lot of people in the hallway. I'm like, why are there so many people in the hallway at this time? So then I hear like the chirps of the police walkie-talkies. I'm like, mind you, I have my AirPods in, so I can barely hear it over the music on my AirPods. I'm like, nah, something don't seem right here. Like, what is happening? So I heard some white people talking. I'm like, white people? What are white people doing on the floor? Like, what are they talking about? And it was some white women. So I'm like, okay, they're probably about to complain about this dude making all this noise. That's clearly what's going on. But I'm like, these voices don't sound familiar to me. So I'm like, what? Let me go check out what's going on. So I get up from my workstation and I go to the door to see what's happening. I open the door and I see a police uniform. I'm like, police uniform? I'm like, what the fuck is going on here? His door is open, right? There's 3, 4, 5 cops there. I'm like, this is strange. What the fuck is this? This is not what I thought I was gonna see when I opened the door. He's standing next to his apartment, up against the wall, not arrested or anything, not in handcuffs. And then I see somebody coming out his apartment with a stretcher. I'm like, damn, somebody must have fell in the apartment. Like, I mean, that must have been like you had to call the police for somebody getting hurt. I'm thinking maybe somebody old, they done passed out, something like that. So I'm looking, I'm like, but who's in the stretcher? I can't tell who it is. I'm like, who is that? And then it dawned on me that I can't actually see the person's face. I'm like, I thought it's because their head was on the other side. I'm like, okay, I gotta like move my head to the left a little bit more to see around the officer so I can see the person's face who's actually on the stretcher. And I'm like, wait a minute. That person's in a bag. I'm like, wait a second. You only go in the bag if somebody died. Like, you don't just put a person that got injured in a bag. I'm like, wait, now everything is registered at the same time. I'm like, wait, did somebody die in this apartment overnight? Like, what the fuck is happening? So now, I'm being nosy as fuck. I'm standing by the door trying to figure out what's going on. I'm listening. And apparently, there was an overdose in the apartment. And there's drugs all over the apartment, or as they said, there's narcotics all over the apartment. And they're going to have the narcos team come to the apartment and overlook or to look at whatever is there, right? So I'm trying to figure out what the fuck is going on because this shit seems very, very, very weird. He doesn't seem very distraught. I don't know who died. I'm like, this is fucking weird. So as I'm standing by the door, he calls, I believe maybe his mother or his sister, some woman that he calls, and they're screaming on the phone, but they're talking in a language I can't understand. But it seems like his brother died from an overdose in the apartment, right? Now, here's why this is strange. Because Melissa and I are under the assumption that the person that I borrowed the drill from, the person that comes to the apartment all the time, that he lives there. I don't even think that he might live there, but he might not be on the lease because we think there's some shady stuff going on. Okay. I believe that the guy left his apartment after his brother had died already in the apartment and then came back to act like he didn't know he was there. The reason I say that is because he was not in trouble. I don't know a situation where you could be in the house where somebody dies of a drug overdose and they don't want to question you or take you in to ask you what the fuck is going on. So I'm trying to understand, like, how on earth, and for people who may be into criminal justice or forensics or things like that, you guys can explain to me how this works. I don't understand this part. They were asking for a voucher for the drugs that were in the apartment. I didn't understand that. I'm like, why do y'all need a voucher for these drugs that are in the, or narcotics in the apartment? This shit seems really odd to me. So fast forward to, later in the day, we were sitting on the bed. We just like, nah. Something seems real fishy here. Like, I don't believe what's going on. Because then later in the day, another guy comes to his apartment and this dude looks like he could be on drugs as well. He's at the door. He looks like he could be homeless. He has the raggedy clothes with the finger holes in it. And I'm looking like he's speaking Spanish. I'm like, I don't know what could possibly be happening right now. But this guy that I know was involved in whatever happened is still in his apartment. He's still there. And I'm pretty sure the story's not over because he's still there. And I don't understand. I wonder if I can find it online about anybody that might have passed away in this building or in this area due to that. Because they said it was an overdose. They were saying they go to the hospital. They were saying that he left the apartment and then came back. This is what I got from them. I have some of it recorded on my phone. So I don't know how audible it is. I have to listen to it later. Maybe I'll put it at the end of the podcast to see. You guys can hear what I heard. But like I said, it was a crazy situation. And I was always under the impression that he was on drugs. I was like, nah, he seems very drug oriented. And I'm not surprised. And it was just very weird to me that he wasn't reactional to the fact that his brother just died over on a drug overdose. So all of that coupled in with the fact that he had this other guy in the apartment who was doing a situation with the cell phone, and I thought it was his boyfriend or it could be a drug dealer. There's some shady stuff going on in that apartment. And like I said, I'm going to keep you guys updated about what goes on with that because I already know it's going to end up getting a lot. Something crazy going to happen to that. So I'm actually going to look into that. I'm going to write it down to make sure that I look into, let me write it down now, to look in to see what happened next door in the apartment. Let me write this down in my notes. So we are 100% moving. We are 100% moving to Atlanta. The date is not concrete yet, but we have decided like we are definitely going to do it. And it's funny that somebody, I can't pronounce her name. I'm pretty sure I want to say JL. I think that's her name. Shout out to JL. We were talking about, Melissa and I were actually talking about this before, about us. No. We definitely were.
We're not doing it.
Sure. Melissa and I were talking about this before about getting a van and living in Atlanta. So she's shaking her head no, but I don't know if she remembers that she said that the thing that she would do is a van and not be homeless. Do you remember that conversation? Okay, then. That's what you said. That's what you said. You said, Melissa said that the lowest I'll go is living in a van.
The van that I would want to get costs $100,000.
Melissa said the lowest you'll go is a van. So worst case scenario, we'll be in a van in Atlanta. So what I was saying is we are definitely going to go. There's no doubt. There's nothing else coming. We are 100% going. What we decided to do is we're going to move to Atlanta. And when we're there, we're going to just figure it out. We're going to end up with the shout out to AJ. I'm going to kind of get to that a little bit later. I'll tell it right now. He's supposed to get us a lot of business credit or some funding. And we're going to use that money while we're down there. And we're going to go to as many, if not every single apartment complex we can go to get a unit for us for corporate housing, as well as single family houses. And we're going to make sure that we have some type of income through the short-term rental business, short-term rental arbitrage corporate housing business. We're going to make sure that we are definitely getting paid from that. So I just want to keep it. Listen, it's happening. Like there's not before last 2 or 3 weeks. We're like, you know what? We want to go. We don't know when we're gonna go, how we're gonna do it. There's no how. Where we're gonna get down there, we'll figure it out once we get down there. So right now, what we're gonna do is we have a couple $1,000s that we just paid. We used to pay off my credit because my credit is everything on my credit is good except for the utilization. Utilization is like 100%, which means my cards are maxed out, and that's making my credit. That's fucking up my credit pretty much. So because of that, actually, I did a PPP loan. I had my friend fill it out for me, and I had got approved for $145,000. All right, I was like, oh shit, like it's about to go down. And I think it's funny because Melissa and I have always been talking about recently, what would we do if we got a large lump sum of money, and we start breaking it down. So I'm thinking in my head, okay, we're gonna spend it like this, we're gonna do that, we're gonna do this with it. And I'm like excited. They said, okay, you're not approved yet. This is how much you will get if you're approved. But here's the number. So I'm thinking 145. That's great. Because the last time I did it, they were like 19,000. I'm like, that's some bullshit. So I'm walking out of the gym on Saturday with Kiki. And I'm like, yo, bro, this just crack. I applied for this PPP loan. I'm about to go to Atlanta, whatever. I pull it up. It just says $0. It says you were declined. I'm like, that's crazy. I'm like, what the fuck? So I get an email a couple days later, and they're telling me that's because my Experian information was negative or whatever they saw on that as the reason why I'm not getting a loan. I'm like, not even surprised, because right now my credit score is like in the 500s, and this is what kind of annoys me about this. First of all, nobody go by Credit Karma. That's just the rule of thumb. Fuck Credit Karma. However, I was using Discover to check what my score was, and what I have on Discover is about 120 points higher than what I have on the actual credit report, which is very strange. I don't know how that happened. So I think I'm gonna get approved for this loan. They told me no, 145 down the drain. As you guys already know, I paid $2,500 to AJ, who's in Atlanta. Also, like I said, a lot of people in Atlanta. I'm telling you, it's a sign. To get the credit up. So he had texted me the other day like, hey, how much money do you want? And I was just like, I didn't know that's how it works. He was like, yeah, just how much you trying to get? I'm like, I don't know. So I'm like, babe, how much money you want to get? She was like, I don't know. She's like, why you want to know? I'm like, I don't know. He want to know. She's like, why he want to know? I'm like, I don't know why he want to know. She's like, well, tell him 200,000. I'm like, 200,000? She's like, yeah. I'm like, you serious? She's like, yeah. I'm like, all right, shit, fuck it. All right. I'm going to tell him 200. So I text him like, can we get 200,000? He's like, I bet. I'm like, I bet, Brad. What did he say?
He said, say less.
Oh, facts. He said, say less. He's like, yo, say less. I'm like, you mean I could have said more? You telling me I could have said like $400,000 or something? He was like, yo, say less. I'm like, that's crazy. So mind you, in my head, I was thinking, I'm going to just give him the information. He going to give me some money from business credit, raise my credit score up, and whatever I get, I get. $200K, I was like, shit, that's crazy. So we gonna see what happens, because if I could get somewhere close to that, or anything close to that, a fourth of that, honestly, a fourth of that would be what, 75,000 or 50K. We're gonna have 50K possibly, and I'm like, we could make a move 50K. So like I said, that's where we at with the Atlanta thing, and we just we hunkering down on how we're gonna get down there. So we 100% are going to Atlanta. So like I said, getting the credit up, that's the goal. We paid off, like I said, all of my credit not all of my credit. We paid off my biggest card so that we can then, hopefully, it'll help us with what AJ is doing to increase our credit. That's the plan. So, 2 more things in life update. We did go to a store last week. Shout out to the Grand Rue Market. That is in Brooklyn. We are trying to get our clothes in the store. Melissa is going to be hand making bags and sweats and shirts and those things like that. So it's like, okay, we now have a foundation of where we can sell the clothes, our distribution of how we can get the clothes out. They're not made yet, they aren't finished, but you guys will see that stuff coming forward. Probably you'll see it on YouTube videos, you might see it on Instagram and things like that. Because we need to make money also while we're still here for the next couple of months, and we're trying to figure out what are the best ways to do that. And clothing, it seems like, will be one of the better ways to do that. We just have to figure out as far as pricing goes and how can we actually get the margins to be better so we can make more money doing that. But listen, like you said in the intro, okay, fitness, clothing, music, sports, podcasts, and there's another one, food. And food is, I'm telling you, there's a lot of this. You're gonna see a business created from each one of these things. It's coming. Just give it some time. And right. The other stuff I'll probably save for the next week, only because maybe it might be a while now. What?
Why?
Because I feel like it's already long. I mean, those two are not that long. Because the Chloe one, I feel like is.
This one.
Yeah, I was gonna bring that one. That's what I'm saying. That's what I was kind of gonna do. So for February, I've been considering having a lot of guests on the podcast. I right now have one scheduled for next week. I was thinking about having somebody come on a week after that, and then I thought about maybe doing a virtual one the week after that one. So just trying to see it, but I definitely want to do one next week. We already have it scheduled in and penciled in for Tuesday. The other one got to figure out.
Who's coming?
I can't tell you who's coming.
The fuck? What? How does that work?
Can't tell you. You gotta just be surprised. Like, surprise. So there's that. Now, this is the last part of my life update. Okay. So I talked about this last week, where people feel like I make very erratic decisions, right? They feel like my life has no form or reason. It's just, I just do things sporadically off of a whim, and I don't plan anything, right? And I'm obviously, I guess, not trustworthy. Here's some context. My dad and my family have a brownstone in Harlem. If you guys are not familiar with that, that's a very popular place for real estate to own. The property right now is probably worth $1.5 million and up. They own it as a family, so there's like 5 of them, and they split up between everybody, right? So when he passed, I get part of whatever he owns. His assets are passed down to me and my sister. So I'm thinking like, okay, I can utilize the property on paperwork reasons. Like, okay, I do own property, so let me try and finesse with that. I didn't want no money because it's rented right now. I don't want no money from it. I'm like, I bet I won't take any money. I won't try to get any loans from it or anything like that. I just want to, at first I was just like, I just want to, y'all do whatever y'all doing. I'm cool. As I'm doing the Airbnb thing, I'm like, you know what? Maybe I could try and utilize the tax return. Say, hey, this is what I made last year. This is the property that I own. This is my net worth now because I do own part of this building. So I'm talking to my aunt, who you guys know I have a very fickle relationship with based off what happened with my dad last year. You have to go check the podcast for that because I'll tell you what happened. I'll tell you why, and you guys can see the reasons behind it. I think because of her, I think my dad's girlfriend, and some other people are the reason my dad died, right? I say he was murdered. That's what I say. And she's one of those people I feel like that happened because of her. So she wants help from me on the apartment. And I'm like, cool, I'm all into real estate now. Whatever you need, I can help you out with that, give you some information or go research some things for you. And she said, hey, Donovan, they call me Niles on that side. Can you give me the comps, which are comparables in the area for rent for this apartment that we own? I'm like, I could do that. That's easy. So I'm looking them up. She tells me that she wants to find something that is no utilities included. I'm like, all right, cool. I could do that. As I'm looking, I'm like, oh, damn, I need to know what the square footage is, because if I find an apartment that was rented that's 1,400 square feet, that's rented for $3,000 or $4,000, and we only have 1,000 square feet, I can't use those as comps. That's silly. I can't compare these two things because they're not the same. They're not even close. So I said, hey, aunt, what's the square footage of the apartment, not the apartment, but the actual units? She's like, I don't know. I'm like, you don't know at all? Is there any way to find it? She's like, I don't know. I'm like, well, what's the agent's name, right? I'm thinking it's public information. I'm pretty sure he probably listed it on his website or something, like, hey, I rented this apartment out. He probably had the square footage up there. So I'm like, all right, cool. She's like, I can't tell you that. I'm like, what? She said, yeah, I'm not gonna tell you his name. I'm like, what do you mean you're not gonna tell me his name? She was like, yeah, you don't have to know that. I'm like, what? What do you mean I don't have to know that? What are you talking about? She's like, I don't think you have to know that. I'm like, what? she was like, well, for what you need to do as far as finding out the comps, you don't have to know that. So now I'm turned off immediately, because one thing I do not like to do is work with people do not trust me, and two, that I don't trust. That's just a bad relationship for anybody, whether it be boyfriend, girlfriend, business relationship, or friends. It's a bad relationship, right? I've been in that before, and it's toxic, and it's honestly very annoying to be in. So I'm like, oh, okay, word, because now this is what the problem. This is not even the problem. This is what she doesn't understand, that if I decide that I want my share of the house in cash, the house has to be sold. The court will force everybody to sell the house unless they come up with my, fourth of the 1.5 million, which I don't believe anybody has to pay me, which would be like almost like $200,000 in cash. Nobody's going to pay me that, but the court will definitely force her to sell the house if that is the case. Now, this is what annoys me, because I'm trying to be helpful, right? So I'm like, I don't understand why you give me this much friction about the agent. So I'm like, I call my sister. I'm like, hey, look, this is what I'm thinking about, because I'm annoyed now. And I can do more with the money I get from the house than the actual house, because one, they charge too low for rent. Two, they don't know about how to refinance or do a cash out refinance. They don't know how to do any of that stuff. So now the house is sitting there more or less barely. It's not being maximized to its full potential. So I'm like, y'all are missing out on a lot of money, and y'all just doing nothing with it. Oh, my stomach hurts. So I'm talking to my sister, and she's like, yeah, I don't really want to sell it. It's not really something I want to do. We should keep it. Now, I'm thinking of making actual moves. It seems like most of my family is like, hey, let's just have the house for 100 years and just keep it. And I think that people think that that's what wealth is. And wealth is, and also they want to pay off the house, which is silly and it's ridiculous. You don't build wealth by having one house. That's not wealth. Wealth is not, I have one house that brings me money every month. That's not what wealth is. So I'm like, hey, let's try and build actual wealth by using this apartment that we were given, because now we have a foot up on a lot of people that don't have a house like this that's worth this much money, and let's turn this into multiple houses. Let's do something. Let's make money off of this house. Everybody's like, well, I don't really know. So she's not really feeling what I was trying to do. I'm like, okay. She decides, hey, let's call my cousin, which is my aunt's daughter, and let's figure out what we could do with the house. We start talking on the phone. I bring up my situation and my concerns with how she didn't trust me with the apartment. So come to find out, right? She's saying to me that I should bend or capitulate to her mother because her mother doesn't trust me, and I should be used to that, and that's why I should accept the fact that her mother doesn't trust me, and then I should work around that, as well as submit to what she wants me to do, right? Now, for me, I'm not with that at all, right? Only because there's no equal partnership in this relationship. It's you tell me what to do and I do that. I don't work like that. That's not how I work. I'm like, listen, if you want something from me, hey, let me help you. You help me. And this is a symbiotic relationship. I don't want it to be where I'm sitting and she's like, do this, do that, do this, do that. And when I ask a question, when you want me to help you, you don't even give me an answer to that question. I don't want to be a part of that. She tries to tell me that, well, this is what was echoed in the conversation from my sister and my cousin, is that my life has been very, I don't know, you know what word I used when I was talking to you about it? They feel like it's been very sporadic. They feel like I make a lot of rash decisions. I don't make good decisions and things like that, right? And I find that to be very ironic, because if I look at the people who are saying this and and with the aunt, I feel like they don't make a lot of good decisions either. A lot of them, all three of them, they go down the regular path of go to college, get a degree, live your life like that. All of them. That's how they all look at it. And that's not going to build actual wealth. That's not how they're going to do it. So it annoys me that they feel like because I'm actually trying to build wealth, that is rash or a rash decision. So now what we're going to end up doing is we're going to have to wait. Or we're going to, in like 2 or 3 weeks or whatever, we're going to call my aunt and try to figure out, okay, how can we mitigate the situation? Because what my cousin was trying to tell me is that she thinks that I was going to call the agent up and press the agent and be like, hey, why the fuck is this price so low? You're not doing your job right. And I'm like, why on earth would I do that? Where would that even come from? So that's something I want to keep updated with. I put it out on here because I wanted to have a timeline for when it actually transpires. Because like I said, it's something that just kind of annoys me. And what I realized that I need a rebranding. So as soon as I end up getting one win of any type, of any sort, it's going to be like, oh my God, I didn't know. Why didn't you tell me? Can you help me out with this? I need help with that. And I'm going to be like, I'm the same person that I was a couple of months ago before. So when I do get that win, a couple of wins, like I said, I'm going to have a rebranding. I'm going to have like a, I don't know, maybe I won't get a haircut. Maybe I'll buy a nice car or some shit and post pictures of my nicest apartment as a rebranding and let people know, like, oh, wow, he knows what he's talking about. So that was the last part of life update. And that's something that really it bothers me a lot because even when I was younger, there's something that comes up all the time where people only trust you or believe you based off of what you have done before, not of what you're telling them. And I'm like, okay, fine. Perfectly fine. That's honestly like one of the major reasons why I started the Bamboo Project, because I'm like, look, if nobody's going to believe what I say, I'm going to just do it myself. And then when I do it myself, I'm going to charge $1 bajillion to people that told me that I was doing it wrong or what I was doing was not going to work. So now on to life update. We are not going to do today's topics because we're already like an hour and 15 minutes into the podcast. So can you scroll down? Some more people in Atlanta. Yeah, I found out recently. Be with the Beard Guide. I'll be looking at Agent Zero, the popular YouTuber, and Noel Randall, I believe, is also in Atlanta. Was not expecting that, and somebody else too. Like I said, a lot of people that I be looking at and watching YouTubers in Atlanta. I think the algorithm has forced me to watch people in Atlanta. I think the algorithm is pushing me to move to Atlanta. That's what's happened. I believe it. They know what's up. Last week's episode, I was speaking very, very, very fast for like the majority or the beginning of the episode. I did not like that at all. So for this episode, I tried to speak a lot slower. I think that I've drawn it out a little bit too much, but I definitely think the pacing was a lot better. I'll see how it sounds when I listen to it. But I know last week it was really fast, and I was highly annoyed listening to it. It got better towards the end, but at the beginning, I'm just like, bro, you're speaking too fast. Like, even as a listener myself, I'm like, I don't want to listen when you're speaking that fast. So I didn't really like that. Let's see. There's something else I want to talk about. Oh, can you scroll up a little bit? Oh, I felt like last week's episode was like, it wasn't terrible. It wasn't great. It was just kind of like a episode. I'm very curious to see how this one sounds because I did a little bit something different as far as, like I said, talking slower, trying to draw it out a little bit to see how that sounds. I think my pacing was better. I think my breathing was definitely better. And I felt uncomfortable in the beginning of the podcast, but it kind of went away. So I'm going to see if I can try to recreate that or replicate that going forward. And what are we at right now? Okay. Elon Musk recently, something I wanted to talk about too. Vaccine. I agree with him that the people who should take the vaccine are the people who are most likely to die from the coronavirus. I don't think everybody needs to take the vaccine. I think the people who are going to probably get sick, comorbidities, overweight, situations like that, those are the ones who I think need to either be quarantined or just they should get the vaccines first and then just let them have it. And everybody else who obviously gets it and kicks it does not need to be vaccinated. It's fine. I think they should be left alone. And I think that is it. This is the last thing for the episode playback. We talked about censorship last week in the episode where I was saying that I think everything should not be censored. There should be no censorship at all. Melissa was saying that she feels like certain things should or shouldn't be censored. I was like, okay, all right, I can see where you're coming from. So this is why I question listening to the podcast again, kind of like just kind of thinking, okay, if that's the case, right? We don't want to see pedophilia on the internet, right? We don't want to see that. Nobody wants to see somebody's brain, or head getting chopped off on the internet. We don't want to see that. All of those things are more or less as as a whole or as a community of people, we decide that pedophilia, we don't want to see kids getting fucked on the internet. We don't want to see gruesome murders. But what I don't understand is, why is it okay to see black people murdered on the internet? Why is that allowed to be on the internet, but everything else is not? One of the arguments I always hear is, well, if we didn't see it, we wouldn't know it exists. But if that's the case, why not put pedophilia on the internet too? Because the same argument for why people have pedophilia on the internet is the same argument that could be used for people who have black people getting killed on the internet. Melissa was saying that if you put rape and pedophilia on the internet, people will then see that, be a copycat, and go out and do it. So is that not the same argument? If you put black people getting killed on the internet, would somebody not also want to go out and do the same thing? So that was something I was thinking about listening to last week's podcast. But that wraps it up for episode 46. This one was definitely not as structured as it should have been, which is, it happens sometimes. We're still moving along. Can you scroll down more? So right, if you haven't already, you can go check out our social medias. Mine is DonivanGray, DonivanGray, and phenomenal, amazing, beautiful girlfriend is AnetaBurn, AnetaBurn. We will be having guests on the next couple of weeks. If you want to come on or do virtual, you could just kind of DM me about the virtual one, because we're still working on that. We will be trying to do one this week, or not this week, this month. So if that one goes well, then we will definitely start adding on more virtual podcasts. Because like I said, y'all know I'm not a fan of that. So on the Bamboo Project, we have multiple different projects. Okay, we have the food project, we have the clothing project, we have the music project, we have the fitness project, we have the sports project, and we have the Bamboo Project podcast, which you just listened to right now. And with that being said, Bamboo Project.